If you're thinking about early retirement, you're not alone. A lot of federal employees in their 50s are looking at their TSP balances right now and asking, can I touch it yet without getting smacked with that 10% penalty? And not to mention all the rifts going on with the federal employees in 2025, many of them decided to take the DRP or DRP 2.0 earlier this year without realizing that they can't take money from their TSP until they hit a certain age. And I'm going to talk about that throughout this video. And I get it. You've spent decades building that account, watching it go up and down through government shutdowns, market crashes, and everything in between. And now that you're getting closer to retirement, it's tempting to finally tap into it. But here's the good news. There are three main ways you can get your hands on your traditional TSP and Roth TSP penalty free. Understanding these rules is absolutely critical because one wrong move could cost you thousands in penalties, while the right strategy could be your ticket to freedom. Freedom! The first and most common way to access your TSP penalty free is something called the Rule of 55. And this is the rule that many federal employees who decided to take the DRP before 55 really missed out on, because here's how it works. If you retire, resign, or get separated from federal service in the year you turn 55 or later, you can withdraw money from your traditional TSP without paying the 10% penalty. And taxes will still apply. You will owe income tax on whatever you withdraw, but that extra penalty disappears. It's one of the most useful exceptions out there for federal employees, especially those looking to retire early, but not early enough to wait until 59 and a half. Now, let's make it simple. Say you turn 55 on December 28, 2026. You could retire technically as early as January 1st, 2026, and you would still qualify for penalty-free withdrawals because it's the same calendar year you're turning 55. But if you retire in December 2025 when you're still 54, you're out of luck. You will have to wait until 59 and a half or use a different exception. The IRS does not care that you're just a few months away. It's calendar year specific, not age on the day specific. That's why timing is everything. And I have seen people take their early out offers due to the potential rifts earlier this year, the DRP or DRP 2.0 with VERA, and which stands for Voluntary Early Retirement Authority, thinking they'll be fine with their TSP, only to find out that they retired too soon to qualify under the Rule of 55. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not blaming anyone for taking the DRP when they face the threat of rifts throughout the year. A few months off can mean a 10% penalty on every dollar you withdraw. So if you took the DRP VERA with a separation date of December 31st, 2025, but you're not going to be 55 until 2026 or later, then you're going to have to wait until 59 and a half to take the TSP distributions penalty free. Now, what most people misunderstand is that the Rule of 55 can apply to both traditional and Roth TSP, but you really just want to do it with a traditional TSP and not the Roth TSP. This is where things get a little tricky. And here's why. The Rule of 55 helps you avoid penalties on your traditional TSP, your pre-tax contributions, earnings, and interest. But when it comes to your Roth TSP, the IRS plays by different rules. If you take money out of your Roth TSP between ages 55 and 59 and a half, part of it, specifically your earnings, could still be both taxed and penalized, while your Roth TSP contributions are tax and penalty free. Here's why. Your Roth TSP is made up of two parts: your contributions, which are the money you put in after tax, and your earnings, which are the growth on that money over time. You already pay taxes on the Roth TSP contributions, so the IRS will not tax you twice. Let's say you've got $1 million Roth TSP over the past 25 years. Out of those $1 million, let's say you have $300,000 is your own contributions over the course of 25 years, and $700,000 is earnings from growth over the course of 25 years. That means only 30% of your Roth TSP is completely tax and penalty free. The other 70%, your earnings, are still under that 59 and a half rule. So if you use the 4% withdrawal rule and take out $40,000 from your Roth TSP at age 55, the TSP will calculate that 70% of that withdrawal, or $28,000 out of $40,000, is coming from your earnings. That $28,000 will be hit with a 10% penalty, and you will have to pay income tax on it, while the other $12,000 is tax and penalty free. That's a painful surprise you absolutely do not want. So instead, you only take money out of your traditional TSP under the Rule of 55. If you take that same $40,000 from your traditional TSP, it will only be subject to your regular income tax. There's no 10% penalty. So if your pension was, say, $30,000 a year, that $40,000 withdrawal will be added to your pension, and your total taxable income for the year would be $70,000. It's a clean, straightforward process, and it avoids that nasty penalty or the pro rata rule with the Roth TSP I just showed you. And for my friends in the special provision employee category, I'm talking about law enforcement officers, firefighters, and air traffic controllers, you get to enjoy the rule of 50 instead of the rule of 55. And some people even call this the rule of 25. If you're covered under these provisions, you can access your TSP penalty free starting in the year you turn 50. And thanks to the Secure Act 2.0, there's even more flexibility now. If you retire with 25 years of service, you may be able to access your TSP penalty free even if you're younger than 50. It's a great benefit that recognizes the demanding nature of those jobs. So what can you do if you retire early and you cannot access your Roth TSP contributions or earnings without getting hit with a penalty? This is where the second strategy comes in. You can roll over your Roth TSP to a Roth IRA and gain early access to your Roth TSP contributions from your Roth IRA. Now, keep in mind that this is an irreversible process. Once you send that Roth TSP money to your Roth IRA, you cannot move it back to your Roth TSP. But why would people do this? Because again, this is how people gain access to their Roth TSP contributions tax-free and penalty-free. So here's how it works. A Roth IRA has what's called ordering rules. This means that when you take money out, the IRS considers the first dollars to come out to be your original contributions. And since you have already paid taxes on those contributions, you can withdraw them at any time for any reason, completely tax-free and penalty-free. Let's go back to that same example from earlier. You've got that $1 million Roth TSP with $300,000 in contributions and $700,000 in earnings. Once you move that money into a Roth IRA, the account will still recognize that you have $300,000 in contributions. Now you've unlocked the ability to take money out of your Roth TSP by accessing it in your Roth IRA. You can pull out that full $300,000 in contributions without any taxes or penalties. However, you still have to wait until you're 59 and a half to touch the remaining $700,000 in earnings. And the other thing you need to be aware of is the 5-year rule. How long you've had your Roth TSP does not matter, because this is all about how long you've had your Roth IRA. So if you've had your Roth TSP for 5 years, but you haven't had your Roth IRA for 5 years, then that $700,000 in earnings will need to wait until you hit 5 years with the Roth IRA. And even if you're over the age of 59 and a half, and again, your Roth contributions do not matter in these rules. I'm going to say this again for the people in the back. This is all about your Roth earnings. Your Roth IRA needs to be open and active for at least 5 years. You need to be over the age of 59 and a half to take the Roth earnings out tax-free and penalty-free. If your Roth IRA is less than 5 years old and you're over the age of 59 and a half, you're not going to get the 10% penalty on the $700,000 in earnings, but you will get taxed by both federal and state. This is very, very, very important to understand. So if you need to watch it again, just rewind it by a minute. This Roth TSP to Roth IRA rollover is a powerful strategy, but it requires some serious planning. So it's important that you keep good records and write down how much you contribute to your Roth TSP every single year, so you know exactly how much you can access after a rollover. You can go to the link that says contribution details on top of the TSP page when you log in, and it'll tell you or show you how much you contributed to your Roth TSP since inception. Now that covers the rule of 55 and the Roth IRA rollover, but what if you're under 55 and you've already separated from service, and or those other options just don't fit your situation because you don't have a Roth TSP? This is where our third and arguably most complex strategy comes into play. It's the Rule 72T. Rule 72T is the official IRS code for what they confusingly called a series of substantially equal periodic payments, or SEPs. But at its core, it's a vital exception. Normally, if you touch your retirement money before age 59 and a half, the IRS hits you with income tax and an extra 10% penalty. But 72T gives you a legal way to dodge that 10% penalty. This penalty-free early access is the main pro, making it a smart bridge strategy if you retire, say, at 53 and want to delay Social Security until 67, since it gives you a clear, consistent payout like a paycheck. However, there are serious cons, with the number one issue being the total lack of flexibility. Once you start, you're locked in, period, meaning you cannot stop, change the payment, or take out extra cash for emergencies, even if the market tanks and forces you to sell assets at a loss. This risk is compounded by the rule's complexity. And this is not a DIY project, because if you make a single mistake, miscalculate the amount, or skip a payment, the IRS can retroactively disqualify your entire plan, which results in a monster tax bill for the 10% penalty, plus interest on every single withdrawal you have ever made. You can choose to apply for a 72T plan to your traditional TSP, or you can roll that over to your traditional IRA and then apply for a 72T. It's really up to your personal situation. However, I've heard complaints that TSP is slow with making things happen with 72T, so most people would prefer to roll that over to a private brokerage with a traditional IRA that can answer your phone faster than a TSP customer service. Before you decide to do this, though, please talk to a tax professional, because it is more complicated than you think. The IRS gives you 3 official methods to calculate your annual payments, and you have to pick one. The first is the required minimum distribution method, which is probably the easiest in my opinion. And you just take your account balance at the end of the previous year and divide it by your life expectancy. And you can look that up on the IRS website. The second option is the amortization method, which is kind of like calculating a mortgage payment. You take your account balance, your life expectancy, and a specific interest rate that the IRS publishes based on the federal funds rates. The third option is the annuitization method, which is a bit more of a hybrid, because it uses an annuity factor from another IRS table to determine a fixed annual payment. And please keep in mind that once you start, you're legally obligated to continue taking these payments for a very specific amount of time. You have to do it for at least 5 years, or until you reach age 59 and a half. But remember, it's whichever is longer. So if you retire at 53 and start your 72T, you have to keep taking those withdrawals every year until you're 59 and a half. That's 6.5 years of mandatory payments and taxes you cannot stop. But what if you start at 57? If you're thinking you only need to do it for 2.5 years, you're wrong. You're actually stuck taking the 72T payments until you're 62. You can watch my other dedicated video about the pros and cons of taking the rule of 72T, and I'll put that video link in the description below. So these are the 3 completely legal ways to get your hands on your TSP money before you turn 59 and a half. The rule of 55 is your best friend if you're retiring at 55 or later. The Roth IRA rollover is a brilliant strategy for accessing your Roth contributions, but only if you've had your Roth IRA open for at least 5 years. And Rule 72T is the most complicated one, but a powerful option for those who need a steady income stream and are willing to play by the IRS very strict rules. But the most important takeaway here, and the most common mistake I see federal retirees make, is rolling their TSP into an IRA too soon. The Rule of 55 and the Rule of 50 are special privileges for TSP participants. IRAs do not honor these rules, so be very careful before you roll over your TSP before you're 59 and a half, or you could be locking yourself out of your own money. If you're a federal employee considering early retirement, make sure you understand these rules before you make any moves. A wrong step could cost you thousands of dollars in penalties, while the right strategy could give you the freedom to retire on your own terms. And this has been another piece of a video, and I hope you got a lot out of it.